Hello, and welcome to another episode of Life is a Piano. Thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to sit down and chat with Galen Bundy. Now, Galen Bundy is a name that I've heard around Michigan, mainly from my friend and guitarist Travis Swanson. I love his content on Instagram, showcasing different pedals in tandem with different keyboards and synths. He is also involved repping Cusack music and Mojo hand effects with his projects. And he went to Summer NAMM this year, and I went to Winter NAMM last year, involved with Cusack music and Mojo hand effects. So we have some shared intersections of the Michigan music scene and some differing experiences on keyboard. Very interesting to hear his background. So it was great sitting down and chatting with him today. If you liked today's episode, you can head on over to patreon.com/Dutcher Snedeker. There you can contribute at different tier levels to get early access to podcast episodes and more. You can also hit up my website, DutcherSnedeker.com, to see everything else that I'm up to around the internet. And like I have been saying in my other podcasts, I will be updating Patreon, my website, all these things by my birthday. So if you are looking to see a new presentation, mark something in your calendar, celebrate my birthday with me, September 10, as I launch a bunch of new things. And if you dug today's podcast episode, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. You've heard it all over the internet. Whatever way you engage with content, it helps me out. It helps the algorithm push my content out. All that good stuff. If you dig it, it's a great way to support. All right, let's get into today's episode with Galen Bundy. There we are. The pop filter and mic and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for carving out some time and just sitting down and chatting for a little bit.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember like hearing about you from Travis Swanson years ago, and then I think I saw you briefly at Farm Block, and I was just like, you're him, and then that was it. and then I did get to see you with the Project 206 at Harvest that same year, Harvest Gathering. So I was just like, oh, this guy's he's cooking up something, and this is like monk meets like fuzzy, aggressive meets cool synthy. Yeah, just like a cool blend of stuff.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that always kind of your intent as a musician to kind of just play around with tech and gear and different styles, or did it just kind of evolve as you just kept learning about stuff?
Yeah, so I was really into organ stuff initially, like pipe organ and B3. I think that kind of fed into tech and gear because those are very, a lot of tone stuff happens with those. A lot of, the drawbars and stops, everything. You can change the tone so much. And so I got super into pedals for doing the same thing, I guess.
Yeah. And is that your background is organ, or were you like, oh, I started on piano lessons and then found my way into an organ and
yeah, I started on piano lessons, but it was like split between like a really cheap, shitty keyboard and piano, and we learned like how to use the play along functions on the keyboard,
right?
And like all the different sounds. So I was kind of like right into the electronic thing in a weird, cheesy way.
Right.
And then I convinced my parents to go pick up a free organ. So,
and that was the catalyst for the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it took me a while before I started meeting people outside of, like I would say at least until high school, where I started meeting people who didn't come from the same like West Michigan piano background of like, oh yeah, I see you at all the, all of our teachers get together and we have a recital, or like I go to, St. Cecilia and there's some like music club with young students and it makes them eligible to compete. And then, getting into high school was when I first started getting interested in like, synths and other, sounds that I was just like, oh wait, why am I just limiting myself to just one one tone? There's so many keyboard instruments out there. Yeah. Are you still, so I guess with organ, are you I mean, you have the Nord, so I assume that's like, the all-encompassing go-to thing, but do you have any like hardware at home that's just like you just love using?
Yeah, I mean, I have a Hammond A143, which is a B3 in a different case with speakers and reverb. And then the 147 Leslie, the bigger rotary speaker. And
oh, right.
yeah, so yeah, I got the real thing and the Nord, and
yeah, can't beat the real thing. I'm glad to have Third Coast as an option for they have a B3 and a C3, so I have, I can at least noodle and practice when I'm not just being thrown on it and like, you play organ. I'm like, yeah. I do. So I guess with organ, did that come from, because whenever I hear organ, I'm like, oh, is it like a church background, or pipe organ? You can't really find that on the street, so
so I just listened to this one specific jazz radio show. It came out of Atlanta. I grew up in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
And every once in a while he'd play Jimmy Smith records.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so when I was 10 years old, I saved up my allowance and bought Back at the Chicken Shack.
Wow. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of like, I grew up listening to because my dad usually controlled the playlist in our house with his entertainment system set up, and always had some kind of tape or something going in the car. I grew up with Ray Charles, so every time I'd hear like tell me what I say, that whole song, I would, I was always like, what is that thing he's like, what is that electric piano sound he's playing? And that's kind of what drew me towards Rhodes and Wurlitzers and liking those kind of colors. But yeah, it's cool to have like it's cool to have organ not just be locked in churches as great great and talented as those people are. It's like there's a whole touring industry with all these people either carting the real hardware and figuring out how that works, or modeling it in cool ways. I don't know if you played around with, there's a pedal, well, I guess any of those like what is it, Loudberry? No, Loudon.
Oh yeah,
Lounsbury, yeah.
Or it might be Lounsbury, I don't know, but something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you played around with any of those pedals, or just you've just been like, oh, I have the real thing, why do I need
I haven't gotten to try one out yet. The drives he makes are super interesting though. The EP sort of like the whirly, I think he has a whirly drive that I want to try out. And I know I think Jim Alfredson has done some demos and stuff for him.
Yeah, that sounds right, only because every time I look at Jim, he's doing something else that is cool, and I'm like, oh, I wish I knew that and could do that. Yeah, he came in clutch with Moog Voyager on a recording session we were on, and it was just that moment in my head of like, oh yeah, he's just this like library of gear. Like, why am I not hitting him up to like track other kinds of synths and stuff for things I need? But those pedals seem like the right combination of like trying to get that sound, but also knowing you can't get it exactly So it's like, it's a convenient utility. It's not trying to make like a giant box that'll, you know, be heavy to cart around. It's like, this will do just enough to sound good to the average person. And it might even sound good on a recording. Like, you never know. But yeah, I guess thinking of gear, like you've been pretty consistent with all these Instagram videos on just the kind of overhead shot of you like messing around with all these pieces of gear and things. Was that just kind of I guess hearing your music, it's like you all already incorporate so much tech and gear, so it's probably just like another fun excuse to experiment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think I started trying to do like a daily post a little over a year ago now. And for the most part have kept it up. And yeah, it's taken me some really fun places with gear and with just messing with drum machines at all. Before then I hadn't really done much with it, and I wanted to get some drum sounds involved, but not like too much of a MIDI thing or something.
Right.
And then quarantine hit, and I was like, I can't even have a real drummer. So yeah, that's been something I've learned from that. And then being able to like talk to all these pedal companies that I've been using, and it's a great platform to do that with. They're all very available. It's nice.
Yeah, I've noticed that with like the niche, like there's this, it's like pedal companies are now, you can feel and see the personalities a lot more, and some of the way they approach different effects, or the casing or the control options. And I'm I know I want to do right by Cusack Music and Mojo Hand Effects, because they've been so supportive of Earth Radio, and I got to go to Winter NAMM, which you got to go to Summer NAMM.
Yep.
Yeah, how was that? Like, I mean, I didn't even think they'd have a NAMM this year. Like I thought it was still going to be pushed back, but I guess there was enough safety. How was it?
Yeah, I was a little apprehensive about going, but I think it was kind of right in the center of, well, like things are better now, but now they're getting worse. So
yeah,
I didn't feel too uncomfortable. And it was the first one I'd been to. People said it was a lot smaller than usual, but I still enjoyed it. And it was got to meet some people I've been talking to online, and like, oh, you're the guy, cool.
Yeah, you're the person behind the icon and text.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet that is all these conversations you just tagging them and them reaching out, or is it kind of a mix of like you hit up a company and just say like, hey, I did this cool thing with your pedal, and then they say awesome, and then that starts the dialogue?
Or yeah, so I think it's mostly me reaching out to them. But I'd post stories and things that they'd repost, so been helpful in some way, I guess, to begin with. So
yeah, because it's almost like, I feel like every time some company makes a pedal, there's no like there's kind of the like, we made a chorus pedal, and they just that, okay, a lot of people use choruses for these things, but then Instagram is kind of that place where you just see like, wait, how did he just do that with a snare drum and the or like, how did, like, he fed that through this and then like turned to like all sorts of modding gear and weird chains, and that end up having like fun results. So I'm sure it's really cool for them to like see this kind of plethora of videos and things.
Yeah, and especially for both of us coming at it from a keyboard angle is not super common. There's definitely a lot of people doing it, but It's a kind of an untapped market still.
Yeah, it's so interesting when it's like, in the last 5 years, I feel like I've definitely gotten more comfortable using pedals. I have a better sense of like, what things I want to get that work well with keyboards. And then, I see like J3PO or, Nick Semrad, Corey Henry, just people who, they use it in like really cool ways that just kind of make you think like, yeah, of course you could use pedals with keyboard. Like why, why would anyone think otherwise?
Right.
um, I know for me right now with my rig, I joke that it's kind of like it's the I don't own a workstation keyboard rig, or I don't own a Nord rig, where I have, and all the tools that I want that, something like a Nord would be cool to have to, twist knobs and adjust things on the fly. That all gets linked together, like I have a Yamaha CP33 and I've had that since ninth grade. It won't die. It's just a stalwart tank of a keyboard. And then it's big. So I have the almost like a tabletop surface, and I put my, my pedal board on one end, and then, the Microkorg XL on the other end, and I MIDI chain it to, so I just have the one board controlling all the sounds. And then it's all linked through the Key Largo, so I can just mix in and out effects and, mix the levels of the layers before I send it to the house. And it's like about it's almost like the same price as a workstation, but like there's still way more a workstation can do.
Right. I didn't know they made a Microkorg XL.
Yeah, I don't really know. It looks different. I think it's slightly, I don't even know if it has more keys. I found it used for like a couple $100, and I was like, this thing's pretty sweet.
I think they just call it a Korg at that point. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's enough Korg stuff to make it feel like a Korg.
Nice.
And I have my pedal board, it's tiny. It's like one of those starter ones from, I think, Warwick. I bought it from like Rainbow Music, and it's got, it's got the, the Generation Loss collab with Chase Bliss. I was able to snag one of those.
Nice. Yeah.
Totally, Justin Avdek in Earth Radio, he's the guy who's always like, buy this, and I'm like, oh, okay, it looks cool, and then I just figure out how to buy it, and then it ends up being sweet. But he also got me one of those count to fives from Montreal Assembly as a birthday gift last year, totally out of the blue.
Whoa, nice.
And then I bought it was around the time I was using a DL4 and what is it, the Afterneath from Earthquaker, and I wanted something with less space, and Travis was selling his Caverns, the reverb delay from Keeley Electronics. So I have that, and then I have the Dream Mender, which I think you've also been using in videos. And that's been fun because it's like, all right, I have 3 different delays technically, but they all kind of function differently. And that Dream Mender I like for just kind of that exaggerated, you could get super deep delay space, just fun tones. Do you, I mean, with all the gear, like, is it tricky to figure out what to bring to the gig, or is it like you have like these 5 are my go-tos every time?
I mean, I have some go-tos, but it's more tricky to figure out what not to bring to the gig. Because I want to bring it all. It's just like a matter of
yeah, just figuring out what yeah, the is it, I guess, because I'm trying to think back to when I heard you, like, with Joe Fee using like a banana and like, getting that gritty octavey, unless he wasn't using that and just had that tone. It sounded like a banana, but
Yeah, he's got
um
that, and I think was it 3-leaf audio? Some of the um, Tim LaFave pedals.
oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, the octavers and fuzzes and such. Um, yeah, as well as a whammy and some other fun stuff.
Yeah. Um I'm I'm being with Earth Radio, it's always a tricky thing, you know, balancing three people with pedals.
Right.
Just the swirling sounds. I guess with your group it might be a little easier because you kind of fill in a lot of that. It seems like you fill in a lot of that wide space. I guess bass is always going to kind of be lower, but not a lot of competing swirling sounds.
Yeah, I do most of the floating.
All the spacey ethereal.
Yeah.
And you're the main writer for Project 206, or is it like a collaborative thing?
Yeah, I've been the sole writer thus far. Um, and of course, like everyone has their voice to the songs. Not like I'm the total master of the sound, but
Right. I don't
and
know.
it's
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing the the distance collaborations online too now. Um, yeah, just hearing other people's takes on things and being able to write for different instruments and people.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine, like, I know at some point I'll hire a band to, or with friends, do a full album of stuff, but I can't imagine being that, like, you know like controlling to the point of not letting the other people shine. Because I always think back to, like, learning about jazz, and the like Ellington wrote for his players, and I'm like, that's smart. That seems like a
Yeah.
smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Right to the strengths of your band.
Mhm.
um and are you all, or I guess not, I was gonna say, like, you're not all in where you're living. You're not, are you still in Ipsy, or you moved around? I mean, you don't have to say anything about it, but you moved, I guess.
I've been many places. I am currently in the Ypsi area.
Okay. Yeah. I was just, gotta keep, now that things are slowly opening up, I'm like, okay, who's still, like, did they move out of the state? Are they in this big city now? Did they come home from, like, just seeing, like, okay, if I go to Detroit, who could I call to be on a gig, or
Mm.
co-bill, or any of that fun stuff?
Mm.
um, has it been, I guess, with things opening up, have you been, because I don't really know, like, other than Project 206, like, hearing all the crazy sounds, I'm like, does he does background gigs, right? Or does he not? Has he evolved past that now? And
um, well, the plan is that yes, I did do background gigs. um, and I'm trying to replace that income with animation and motion graphics now.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah, I think of, do you know what's his name? Simon something. Simon
Oh, and Simon Alexander.
yeah, in Sajtak.
Yep.
Yeah, I always think of, we're with my group, Normal Mode, this new trio project, that's like kind of spacey lo-fi stuff. um we reached out to him for some kind of artworky animation stuff. And you've done stuff for us too with Earth Radio, like which turned out great. And I just think of, I was taught, you know, as I've been talking to people for, you know, the various podcasts, it's been interesting to see how people have, you know, they've figured out how to stay within the creative area or like learn a new creative skill, like, you know, animation, video editing, you know, audio engineering. Like there have been a lot of people who took the time, even if they had to work, you know, like a normal quote unquote job, there's still the through line of like still growth, still development, even if it's not on a stage, it's like you're still doing cool creative stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that was another thing with the you know, the daily Instagram thing kind of made me learn was video editing. Like trying to learn how to, you know, colorize video and yeah, chopping it all up, putting it back together, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm you know, with my, you know, I jumped into podcasting with 3 podcasts. So I was like, I'll do video for all of them. And now I'm like, how does anyone do anything? Like, I don't even like, you know, it's just, you know, thinking how long it takes to render some episodes. There's times where I'm like, how does anyone like no wonder this is a full-time job for people having to like color edit and like resizing, reframing. You know, I've had to do, especially if people, you know, are through Zoom are using like, you know, their cell phone or something and they have it vertical. It's like, okay, can I like make 2 tracks and zoom in on that one to make them sort of similar? Like it's an interesting, like getting the another creative part of my brain working, but also kind of being like, do I want to stay on DaVinci or do I want Adobe Premiere? Like, I don't know what you use.
I used to use oh my gosh, what's it called? Forgotten now, but it was something free that wasn't DaVinci.
Like Groove or not Groove Shark, something Shark I used years ago, Light Shark. I don't even remember what it's called.
I don't know. There's been a ton of free things that have come and gone. But no, not I use Premiere now. And so I'm all deep into Premiere and After Effects and Illustrator and Photoshop for all the stuff I do. And I've been meaning to learn DaVinci because it's kind of the go-to for color correction.
Yeah, which is surprising that, like, you know, there's still, you think it's competing, but it's more, they complement each other. You know, I like DaVinci being free so I can, you know, get it and learn some of the basic tools and stuff. And then, you know, Adobe Premiere looks like that next step of like, okay, I can actually, you know, edit photos easier than just Canva, which works for a lot of stuff, but not for, you know, the weird landscape of YouTube thumbnails. Right. Trying to like figure out, you know, figure it out and seeing the types of like faces and like expressions that seem to populate, you know, my algorithmic recommendations and just being like, is that what this machine thinks of me, that I just like faces? Clicks on a lot of things with faces on. So I guess,
man. Speaking of video stuff, I just noticed my light is in the corner here.
Oh. It's that little bit of Hollywood magic.
That's good enough. Okay.
Yeah, I have a it's like a, what is it? Those like clip on, the like work lights that you can like clip on to, you know, a random surface. And the advice I was given was to do that and get like that kind of translucent like tissue paper to kind of soften it. But I haven't gotten the softening yet. It's just kind of pointed up.
Yeah, my roommate was kind enough to let me borrow her photography setup. So I've got some like actual cans and umbrella and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, right now I'm on my laptop camera though, so that's probably all for naught.
Yeah, well, and it's funny though to see like the people who get away with like, pretty standard or even just their, their phone, like very basic setups, and then they work on, like what is my voice with creating things, what, like how do I, speak, I guess, even if it's nonverbal, like with, music creations or artwork, or it's like how am I communicating to my audience? And then you see that shift of like, oh, they've got the thing that makes their, capturing what they're doing look nicer, and then they're able to afford an editor who can like make it look even better, just that bump in production.
Yeah, and phones these days are so good at video to begin with. I was using my phone for a while and recently got a Sony A6000, which is like, it's definitely better, but like, I don't know, for Instagram and stuff. It makes me feel better, I'll say
that. Yeah, that's the thing too, is like formatting in general is so, I trying to explain to people who ask me like, how do you work on social media? And I'm like, I just literally have to take it, day by day, week by week. There's so many like little changes that aren't like, it's not like a newsletter of changes. It's just like, hey, the algorithm works different. Good luck.
Right.
And yeah, having to have, at least at the, a template from, some crazy person like Gary V, just who has a team following him around all day. Like having the long form, and then like, oh, you want some reels, so you need vertical. Oh, you want some this, you need the landscape. Oh, you want this, it's, you have to have it be super, Facebook's 720p or whatever for streaming or something. Like, there's all of these things that like make trying to just, like you think of those apps that like you could share to all the apps, all your accounts at once, but then, it doesn't necessarily guarantee like it's all going to hit the same. And even, Facebook owning Instagram, it's like yeah, it's just a nightmare. So I would rather I feel like, an approach like yours, where it's like, you're doing something it's fun for you, but it's growing a skill. And then at the same time, it happens to be building, an audience of keyboard pedal lover people.
Yeah, and on the algorithm thing, I'm expanding into TikTok now.
Ooh.
Which has been confusing, I guess, after being on just Instagram for so long. Yeah, figuring it out. It's been slow though.
Yeah, I still have to come back to it. I was like kind of in it in February, March, and then I fell off it during, these last few months, and was just kind of like, I need to focus on these longer form things. And TikTok's kind of I mean, it's another, cross section of the internet where like, leave expectations at the door, but then there's also kind of a formula if you want to, jump on a trend or figure out how to do a video. So I think I just need to get back into it, and just same mentality of like, just put out something that you feel good about, and then maybe someone else will.
Yeah, I was kind of annoyed today looking at some like tips for getting, better following on TikTok. Like one of the best ones is to put a trending song in your video. It's like, well, damn it, I'm making my own songs, so I can't do that.
I actually saw a lady who I don't even know if this even works, because it was like, 2 months ago, which is like 100 years in TikTok time. She took that advice for that trend, and then whatever she recorded, she just put, I guess this wouldn't work though if you need. Well, I guess it'd all be under original sound. Like she just mixed the popular song down to the bottom, and then in the text clarified what the audio was. So the algorithm still picked up the fact that song was used and it pushed it out, but I don't know if that still works.
Yeah, I'll just run the top 40 through some ring mod and
yeah,
gather all the followers I need.
Is this what you want? Been driven to putting Katy Perry in a washing machine that's turned into a pedal. Did you think of Summer NAMM? How, because Cusack had their own booth at Summer NAMM, so were you like doing a little bit of floating and then working at the booth, or were you mainly at the booth? Like, I don't know. With Winter NAMM, I had to kind of trade off with Tom Wall, because I was just the dude that was like hanging out and just chatting with the other folks and just being like, yeah, he told me this was a fuzz pedal, try it out. And then Tom was the one who could get people's attention and was kind of annoying the other people at the station because he was getting more attention. But it worked. So I don't know how they had you involved at Summer NAMM.
Yeah, so I think the booth in general was like Full Effect distro, which is they have Cusack, Mojo Hand. I'm blanking on AJ Pete, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I had some of all those pedals on a board there, and I got to the first day I was there, I just kind of played around some, and I brought my Honor Pianet vintage keyboard, and people were pretty excited to see that sometimes, which is fun. Didn't know so many people knew what that was.
Right.
And the second day I got to play with John Von Bohm, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Oh, the guitarist?
He's a bass player.
Oh, I'm thinking of, I think his name's Josh Gomm. Maybe I'm thinking of, there's a guitarist, Gomm was his last name, or did I mishear that?
I'm gonna misspell it. Boehm, I think.
Oh, Bomb. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably.
Yeah. I thought you said.
Sorry, John.
You were great. You were great at Summer NAMM. But that's cool.
Yeah, he's a Nashville local and Cusack endorser and Mojo Hand stuff. Yeah, so it was great meeting him and playing there. That was a lot of fun. It was actually the first time I've done something live with a drum machine, which was a little scary, a little fun.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel. I bought not a drum machine. I kind of want to get one of those what is it? The Teenage Engineering the OP-Z or OP-1 or whatever. I want.
Yeah.
That's definitely one, but the little, like the pocket operators or like the sampler things they have. I want to get one of those, but I bought last year one of those Boss was it RC505, the loop station, and that I haven't played out live with that yet, and I kind of want to try it. This I've done some streams where I've done loops, but I want to dig into it more for the fall and be able to use it comfortably. But drum machines, can be fun, and then sometimes you're kind of like, I need something different, but I have to press a bunch of buttons to get there.
Yeah, that's what random settings are for, thankfully. But sometimes it's too random. It's like I don't know where the beat is anymore.
Yeah, he's playing on the E of every third beat, and I don't know where yeah. And so you must have just been there in like an artist capacity then, not really much of a sales having to kind of do sales work.
Yeah, no, I was just artist and hanging out.
That's great. I enjoyed Winter NAMM, you know, being able to see a bunch of stuff. I wish I could have done a keyboard setup at our booth. We had a, you know, we were part of the Delicious Audio Stomp Box
Oh, nice
thing, which was
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Getting to meet like what's his name? I'll have to find him on Instagram, but this guitar player from France was a rep for this French pedal company that I think they're one of their things that people like buying are their, you know, amp cab sim pedals or whatever. But they had a tremolo that had almost like it looked like a fidget spinner like on top of it, like this kind of gimmicky, like you could, you know, flick it or kick it and then it would, like, the speed of it would be your tremolo. And then there were like little magnets on the three like fins, I guess, and it would, you know, catch on the opposite magnet and slow it back down.
That's cool.
And I think I was next to, it was either a Dutch or Danish company that was owned by one of the guys who used to be in upper management at TC Electronic. He started a company that made like this cool, it was like a MIDI expression controller that you could install into a guitar by like replacing one of the tone knobs or like adding a tone knob.
Oh,
So it was just built into like the, you know, guitarists are used to doing that already. And yeah, it was a wireless, like embedded MIDI expression tool.
Hey, that's cool. Oh yeah, Delicious Audio. It's doing some cool stuff at Summer NAMM too. Got to meet guy that runs a Bardic Audio.
Oh yeah, I can't remember where I heard it, but I at least heard the name. Where are they?
He's a Michigan guy.
Oh, well, gotta meet him at some point.
Yeah, definitely. He's making some really cool, solid pedals. I got to meet Matthew from Alexander Effects.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I got to try out the new Syntax Error. There's Syntax Error 2 now.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of the ones to get on that board.
Yeah. The Syntax Error, is that the one that, like, I can't remember what. Oh yeah, it's that one. And
Yep.
what does that one do again?
It does
everything,
several things, and even more now. So it's a bit crusher overall. It can do bit crushing on any mode. One of my favorite things about it is the stretch mode, which is sort of like a buffering time stretch sort of thing. It'll play things back in reverse or just delayed or both. Also at different pitches. So that's one of my like always on pedals that I have. They can all take like expression pedals and MIDI. So I just have an expression pedal set to like 0 mix. And then when I want this like weird semi-reversed glitchy thing, pitch shifted time stretch thing, I'll just like, you know, kick my expression pedal down and this does some this. Yeah, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's
and then it has a ring mod on it as well as a cube distortion. It's kind of a weird distortion, and then a frequency modulator, and so many other things in all those modes. And the new one has a little screen on it, so you can really dig in there and get in with a sequencer. And yeah, I'm excited if you can't tell.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought, you know, because I still have room for one more pedal on. I have a, what is it, a Chox Chox. Is that how you say it? Seox, clocks, whatever that power supply looking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
From Poland, I think. I think it's Chox, but I have a DC5, so I have a 5 variable power things, and I was trying to think of like what to get, and that that would almost be, because I still have a moment machine, and I want to incorporate that now that I understand MIDI more than I did a year ago. But the syntax error sounds like a sweet, like it's like multi effects, but like all this stuff that's like it's like you don't need another reverb or delay just shoved into a thing. Like get all the weird sounds in a multi-use tool.
Yeah, the syntax error is like the first like boutique pedal I bought. So I've been with it for a long time, and it's like it's not like a multi-effects pedal where there's just like a bunch of random stuff it can do not very well. It's its own. It's got a lot of character, and yeah, it's just really fun exploring it.
Yeah, that's one thing I forget to do with I'm always so like busy, I guess would be just in general, that I forget like, oh yeah, I should just sit down with the generation loss and like just start flipping dip switches and see what happens and like turn more knobs, because I have a few sounds that I can whip up on the fly, but a lot of these boutique companies are making like I see people like Misha Mansour, the guitarist for Periphery. He just has like a shelf unit, and it's got like all these pedals that he can just pull off a shelf, plug into a chain. It's like these boutique pedals are making new outboard like studio gear almost.
Yeah, it's kind of like modular and pedals are coming together a little bit in a weird way.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check out Chris Queen, I think his name is. He's one of the however many guitar players rotate in and out of Snarky Puppy. Maybe it's McQueen, Chris McQueen. I don't know. He's always got the glasses and the shorter hair, and it's usually colored like blue or purple or something. But he just started doing on Instagram like just a kind of a chill pedal review thing, and he was showing this old Korg pedal idea where it was like modular, like you could just buy like the reverb module and the delay, and then you could like slot them into this row on this board and then flip them all around. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. I think you sent that to me.
Oh yeah.
And I saw one of those on Craigslist a long time ago. I was like, what is this? I don't. This seems a little.
It seems like it could either be, my thought of it, because I haven't watched the whole video yet. I like saw it and I was like, that's sweet, and then saved it for a day I can just watch a bunch of stuff. It seems like that kind of gear that's like, it's definitely of that time period. It has those sounds baked in, so if you're looking for that, it's probably sweet, but then for anything else it's tricky.
Right. I think Ibanez was Ibanez or maybe Digitech had a similar thing where you just like bought like the body of a pedal and you could put different units in it. So it was just essentially an on-off switch and then a pedal you put in that.
Well, and it's still, like, what was it? Cooper Effects. They came out with that arcade pedal.
Yeah.
With the cards. Like I've wanted to try that too. Like,
yeah, definitely. And I think Elta had one like that too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that Russian synth company.
Oh,
and some cards. Yeah, it's a really neat idea. I tried to get into this coding language for effects and things, because I've been seeing these like DSP based pedals, and it's like, well, maybe if I just learned how to do that, I could not have to spend $500.
Right.
But turns out there's a reason they're $500. It's really hard to learn all that, and so yeah, I like the idea of getting one digital pedal and being able to put different cards in.
Yeah, it if anything for me, I love video games, so I grew up with an NES, and just that idea of like, oh, it's like a cart, it's like a throwback, it's a cartridge for like a game console.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, it's cool seeing companies who are like, I feel like a lot of the modern iterations of things, it's either like, okay, we're taking that giant thing you saw in the 70s and we're condensing it into a thing that fits in your backpack, or we're making it 60 pounds lighter like a bass amp or something. But then there's also people who are like, they're using those old components but like playing around with different interpretations of circuitry, and like if you think of all the like people who started with like, we're going to make a Tube Screamer clone, and then they discovered something, and then now there's like this other divergent line from just the normal expected sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of fun just like seeing people's gear. And are you mainly just Nord and pedals, or do you also have like another, I guess that Gaia, the Roland Gaia in the videos? I don't know if you get with that, but
yeah, I do bring that around. That's been it's like a really flexible synthesizer. And these days I'm not gigging as much, so I don't use the Nord as much. That's my kind of main gig thing. So I usually mostly use the Real Roads.
oh yeah.
Just, or the Pianet. What else do I have? Oh, the O Coast. I use that a lot. Blofeld synthesizer. Oh, and then drum machines. I have the Beat Kid, which is pretty cool. Sort of random beat generator.
Yeah.
And of course the drum brute, and then this guy, Snare Trap.
Oh yeah.
Which has been cool having it like an inline drum machine.
Yeah, that's it's cool that it's like a mix of like you want to use the real keyboards, quote unquote real, the electric pianos and the pianet and these things that some dude's gonna stumble in from 1975 and be like, I remember that was what, and then that starts that convo. But then they look at your pedal board and they're like, what the heck is what are all these computers on your pedal board? It's like a past and future collision in cool ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely experienced that at SNAM. Yeah, and then these like Mojo Hand especially is making like not reproductions, but like sort of emulations on older pedals. So people will know kind of what they are.
Right. Explaining the Dream Mender to folks, and the people who had the original gear, that it just immediately clicks like, oh, and then they probably went out and bought it because they're like, oh, I could get some of those, a lot of those same things just in a much tinier footprint.
Right. It doesn't need to be fixed every month or so.
I think of Eric Johnson, like when he went back on tour, touring the I can never remember the name. It's whatever album Cliffs of Dover came out, his most popular record. He was like, he's like, I'm established. I could get any combination of anything that would like be the updated version of the rig I used when that album came out, but it doesn't sound the same. So I dug it out and it's like, still fixed to like a pedal board he made out of just like a piece of scrap wood, and like, his techs having to like rewire and like, take apart stuff and clean it. And it's like, okay, you also could do that when you're established. I don't know if there's any synths or things on the horizon that you're seeking out, or any cool pieces of gear.
I mean, there's a lot. You sent me that one synth. Gosh, what was it? It was like an 8-voice something or other. Do you remember what that was? That was cool.
Yeah. I'll have to find it because it's like, I can actually just look at my message. Oh yeah, the one that Nick Semrad posted, which is was it the Super 6 from Udo Audio? Yeah.
Okay, 6-voice, yeah.
Yeah. That looked fun.
Oh yeah, and Make Noise has put out a couple new semi-modular things that I'd love to get involved with. There's that sequencer. It's sort of like thinking about the same format as the O Coast. It's really flexible, and then there's a new sort of more ambient geared semi-modular thing. I just got my first Ezzy and Aka pedal a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask Justin what pedal he got from them.
Ooh, he got one too?
Yeah. I just don't know. Because he gigs with, with Earth Radio, he used to be the same way of like, I'll just bring 10 pedals, and then it's like, okay, but you use like 4 of them. And now, he's got,
you never know.
You never know.
You might need that one sound.
That's kind of what's happening with my rig is like, with the 4-piece being the core and me needing to fill a lot of space, I need a lot of like things to trigger and hit, and like kind of like the Hiatus Coyote or like, Thundercat, where it's like, oh, it's a Rhodes and then like 2 synths and then another electric piano, and then, sometimes they might have had an organ backline, but yeah, he tends to use the I think he uses the Digitech. It's not the octave whammy with the foot pedal. It's just the whatever, the quick shot or whatever shot, the Ricochet. And so it's just a stomp box that you can set to different things, and if you hold it, it does some scoop or sweep or something. And then he's got the auto bit from Maris.
Yeah, yep. I love that.
And a Count to 5, and then the Mood from Chase Bliss.
Yeah.
So it's all for the spacey, sparkly, popcorny stuff, and then weird bit crush bass lines with sub bass. But yeah, what was the Ezzy and Aka pedal you got?
Luckily we're on the same table as most of my pedals right now. So this is the Double Tape T.
Whoa,
this is a big guy.
That looks like, oh, I now seeing the little pads. He's got I think one that's like supposed to be like the tape, like a tape machine or tape delay or some, maybe that's one of its functions. But I remember him showing me I think he's got 2 of them now that I think about it, just from the, because he brought up that company, and isn't he the guy that like he has like he works through a like a mental illness, but also has, very specific, I don't know, because of that, it's like timelines are like, hey, I got 10 pedals and then the next few will be who knows when, and it's just like, be patient and you'll get a cool little thing of gear.
Yeah, so from what I know from his website and talking to him a tiny bit, he uses like a ton of like components that are not necessarily made for pedals or audio even, and they're not super common either. So, and he's really specific about it and like really puts everything he's got into making these pedals. So that's one part of the rarity of these. And yeah, mental health is another aspect too, of just makes life harder in general.
Yeah, it's
but yeah, he comes up with really unique designs that I appreciate, and it's almost like a little pre-made modular setup in this pedal, because it's the double, it's the tape T, which is kind of a tape machine emulator, not quite that. It essentially does pitch modulation, as well as amplitude modulation, and like a fuzz that sounds really like tapey and lo-fi. And it's got 2 LFOs. You can like make them influence each other.
Whoa.
Or you can make like one be more of an amp tremolo, which introduces some distortion, which is a pure tremolo, and then just a vibrato. But it's doubled. So there's another tape T, which you can have the other one feed into an influence, or just a completely separate channel if you want. And it's got the pressure pads, which adjust who knows what and makes it go crazy. Yeah, it's so much fun. I love it.
Wow. Is that like $1,000, or is it like...
For what it is, I won't say exactly what it is, but it's surprisingly reasonable. It's not $1,000. Yeah, it was a long wait, and I was excited when it shipped and nervous because it comes from Russia. I was like, please let it get here.
Please just get here. Yeah,
I'm not a spy. I just want to make weird noises.
I'm not buying a weird bomb. It's actually just a it's just a pet. And then you just start talking about it, and they're like, okay, go, get out of here. Tape died in the 80s. No, it's a different kind of, you're thinking of it. Never mind, I'll just leave. Yeah, and where do you just have to bring a side table for gigs, or is that like a studio tool, or like, because that's as big as my pedal board probably.
Well, I don't actually have a pedal board. It's proven inconvenient since I changed stuff out so much, so I just kind of bring however big a suitcase I need, and there it is.
There it goes.
Yep.
I always wish, well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I wish the rig doctor, the dude who rig doctor is his nickname, but the guy who works for Vertex Effects, and he is always on YouTube setting up people's pedal boards, and I aspire to be that organized with, to whatever effects that makes sense. But he's that kind of dude that'll be like, all right, we'll add more vertical space to shrink the horizontal space so it could fit in carry-on luggage. And then, he'll cut all the cable lengths specifically to like, this pedal to that pedal. And then it'll all be chained to like like a digital controller board, so that you could just trigger different combinations of pedals or MIDI, or for probably for like, a rock or pop guitarist, or like, he set up Toes and Abasi's pedal board that he's been touring with the last, well, not since last year, but he had it set up in 2019. And yeah, it's crazy, like just how, there's either like, yeah, like I was saying earlier, like it's either, condensing a thing into a reasonable footprint, or it's a piece of gear that's like super cool. And you're just like, all right, I got to figure out how to put it somewhere because I'm going to use it.
Right. Yeah, I've not gotten into the the space saving and like permanent setup thing at all. I have like, for people who've come kind of through Project 206, the band we're talking about, help them kind of figure out what they need to get the sounds I've been talking about. And then they've taken off from there and like gone into whole new worlds. It's been fun to do that. But yeah, space. Yeah, I don't know. Just just more. You need more.
Yeah, I just imagine at some point. Well, I guess since you want to move things around in chains, this wouldn't make sense. But I was thinking like at some point you're just gonna have, like, I've seen people get they get a, I don't even know what it's called, but like just like a big thing with a bunch of little holes, like a big plastic, or maybe it's not plastic, whatever you would like affix tools to. They just like strap pedals to like a wall, and then the chain's just like all there, and you can, they have some switching, but it's just kind of like, this is my default, what I go to for, and then they can just, untether it from the wall to replace a pedal in the chain, but it's all like, a cool visual thing.
Yeah, it's like what I was saying. It's kind of becoming modular like that. Flying here. Yeah, and modules work like that, where you can just kind of replace them in one space or like patch different areas. And there is some sort of box that kind of does that. It's a weird signal router. I can't remember the name of it. But it's like an octagonal little shape, and it uses patch cables to rearrange your pedals.
Oh, wait. One sec. I think I have this.
Oh, really?
Hello. So while I look for this piece of gear that, spoiler alert, it's at my office in Third Coast, but I wanted to let you know that if you enjoy these types of conversations in Life is a Piano, you can check out my other podcast, Mitten Backstage. I talk to the wider Michigan music community. So I talk with other musicians, people who work in the music business, promoters, other types of, jobs in the industry. And if you just like hearing me talk, I put out a podcast every Sunday at 3 p.m. called the Dutcher Snedeker Podcast, where I just riff and improvise on various topics that happen to be on my mind. So if you dig that type of stuff, you can go and check it out and support all of these podcasts over on my Patreon, like I mentioned earlier. All right, back to the show. I thought it was here. Is it what is it from Board Brain? The patulator?
Yeah. Yes, that. Yep.
Yeah, I bought it for because I liked the idea of like, the being able to reroute on the fly. Mm-hmm. I have this album. Well, I guess it's 2 albums now. I've recorded just a bunch of semi, mainly improvised duo ambient, guitar synth stuff with Justin Waringa. And it's coming up on the 4th year since that first session, and every year's been like, we did a session and then we're like, let's listen back, and then we totally lost track of it, did another session, like, that was great, we should add to the first one. And then the next year is like, does anyone know if we have any of those files? Yeah, I have them. Okay, cool, let's look at it. So it'll get done eventually. But I liked it because I could reroute, and then I used just like a tuner pedal to be like a mute while I was changing on the fly. Mm-hmm. And that would be sweet to do live. It's just how right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they make some cool utility stuff that's just like I can't underestimate like just a pedal that like, oh, this helps make your signal clean or louder, or you know, you need that sometimes.
Mm. Yeah, even just a parallel signal is so helpful sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like parallel hooked up to a volume pedal, so you can just fade in an entirely new sequence of effects whenever you want to.
Yeah, that's one thing I haven't tried a lot of is and it may, you know, it makes me want to retool how my pedals are set up. I haven't tried a ton of expression stuff. Just like using it as a color or another tool. Or even seeing how, you know, with like the count to 5, like what will that do if I just like, you know, ramp up this already crazy sounding pedal?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's something that's kind of come naturally to me from being an organist, because there's always an expression pedal. If you're playing like a nice pipe organ, there's 3 of them. You can fade in all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I remember interviewing, you know, it was an old professor I had at Grand Valley, Gregory Crowell. He is the organ player at, I think it's not St. Andrews, one of the saints in town. You know, it's a church that it's kind of like the area it's in is kind of carved out, and then the rest of it is like, this is what downtown looks like now. So it's like, yeah, definitely an older church in the community, but they needed an organist, and I'm like, if you are training, I'll try and learn. And then you know, he's showing me all the stops and the pedals and just like the sounds, and I'm like, this is a lot. I'm gonna have to take some time. And then, you know, someone came in that's like, I studied it in college, and he got the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, well, I guess with pipe organ, then I didn't even make that connection, because you grew up listening to Jimmy Smith, but I don't know any pipe organ Jimmy Smith, unless I just don't know his deep catalog.
So the other radio show I listened to was Pipe Dreams, which I think is still going. NPR classic show. He has all kinds of pipe organ stuff on there. And currently my favorite guy for pipe organ is Kit Downs.
Kit Downs.
Yeah, he has an album on ECM it's really cool.
He's not the dude. Is he the dude that's like the really like rock and roll looking organ player that like he plays the symphonies? He's got like the shaved hair, and
I think I know who you're talking about, and no, not that guy. No.
Okay. It's like that guy. He's both talented and also like, I don't know if I would hang out with him if I like got extended time. He seems like he's got that like classical bravado of just like, I'm the greatest thing that's ever walked the earth, and it's like, you're good. Did you just do that? Can you be happy with just being good? But yeah, that's it makes, I guess it makes sense too with you know, the listening to these radio shows, or you know, listening to older recordings, and then that informs, I guess, both your playing but also your appreciation for like classic gear, even among, you know, all the cool pedals you're buying.
Right. Yeah, and I first kind of got appreciation for Rhodes from Vince Guaraldi. Weirdly enough, he had a lot of records come out. I think, well, you know, he did in the later, like mid to late 70s, he did a lot of Rhodes recordings for the Peanuts cartoons. But he also had a lot of unreleased live stuff he did with Rhodes, because in the 70s it's kind of like, that's what you did. Brought the Rhodes out. And yeah, those were really inspiring. You know, I had I think I had Korg M50 first and found some decent Rhodes sounds on there, and then discovered the Nord. And so that helped me get really into the Rhodes and just all the touch aspects of it and density of sound.
Yeah, that's like, well, it's interesting because, I feel like in terms of keyboard players in Michigan, you have a very distinct approach and voice, and how you, whether it's your project or the videos, and it's cool to hear, the background it's definitely not how I, not to fault anyone's background, but a lot of people are just like, okay, I got to a point and then I started taking lessons on piano, and then, and then you kind of have pianists trying to figure out all these other keyboard instruments and kind of getting frustrated, or like not wanting, they're like, I'm a pianist, and that's all they are. Or they come up in jazz and it's like, okay, yeah, Chick Corea, yep, he's great, love him, he's great, but not a lot of people reference Vince Guaraldi unless they're like, play the Peanuts theme. It's like, he had a whole career, right? That's it's cool that there's, it's a reminder of like, hey, just like what you like and glean knowledge from things that you're gravitating towards, and you get cool results.
Definitely,
yeah. Well, yeah, this was awesome. I've always wanted to I'll probably just keep sending messages, but I've always wanted to just pick your brain on like random gear and cool things about your background and all the music stuff. Where do you want people to find you on the internet? Where should people find you?
Instagram is probably the best and easiest place to find stuff I do. Just at Galen Bundy. I'm on TikTok now, as we talked about. The username now is Lo-Fi and Pedals, I believe. I've also I might have some vinyl coming out in like 6 to 12 months. So stay tuned for that.
It'll be about 10 years later when it's finally caught up.
I do technically have a YouTube. It'd be great if people would subscribe to that, because there's not much going on there right now.
Some great pedal demos on there that I've definitely seen.
And good old Bandcamp. Yeah, find me on Bandcamp. It's Party 206. Piano Trio. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, well, again, thanks for taking time and showing a little bit of the gear too. I'm gonna have to like look at I'm gonna tell Justin about that Yanaka pedal. Hey guys, doing the outro thing. I'm gonna keep this brief. But thank you so much for listening. Galen is such a, he's such a diamond in the rough. He's such a hidden gem of Michigan. The way that he approaches the keyboard and effects, and he's just got so many knowledgeable things about music and tech. So it was fun to sit down and chat with him more than just like a passing hello, since we live in different parts of the state. But if you dug today's episode of Life is a Piano, I mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast, you can support it by sharing it with people, or following, liking, commenting, however you interact on whatever platform. Feel free to do that. And we'll see you next week 2 weeks for a new episode of Life is a Piano. Thanks for listening.